Hey everyone, thanks for coming back to Night Owl Forge. I know, I haven't posted a video in a while, but I've been super busy traveling, forging like a madman. I have a blacksmith conference tomorrow, and working really hard behind the scenes on something new. A second channel called Wily Wizard, focused entirely on painting, airbrushing, and wild experiments like the one you're about to see. This is a special cut of the full build. If you want to see the complete version, including spray tests and final thoughts, head over to Wily Wizard after this. After I got my first airbrush, I immediately started looking around at other airbrushes because the first one I got was a master airbrush, which is, cheap Chinese one or whatever. I wanted to start using one to apply colors to miniatures. I started digging around, and one that I found that I really wanted to get, but it was sold out, and this was years ago, was the Harder & Steenbeck Infinity Kyiv Dark. Okay, so this was an Infinity airbrush that they made, a special edition, proceeds going to Kyiv, and it was a dark airbrush with all this cool artwork. I'd been looking for one forever, and checking eBay, things like that, you literally can't buy this airbrush. But through my perseverance and amazing research skills, I finally found one, you guys, and it just came in today. So I'm super excited. We're gonna open up this airbrush, check it out, and give it a whirl. It's my dream come true, right? So let me just open up the box here and get it out. And oh yeah, there it is, baby. My Harder & Steenbeck Infinity Kyiv Dark. Just some assembly may be required. Just a little bit. So, as you can see here, I bought the airbrush in all parts. I also have a bunch of leftover parts from other builds and 2-in-1 kits and whatnot. So, I'm going to dig through that and open up these brand new parts here, and we're gonna build a brush that you literally can't buy. So I'm gonna talk about how we're gonna go through that process, and if you're curious on how to just completely rebuild a Harder & Steenbeck Infinity pre-2024 model, I just want to clarify, it's not the new Infinity 2024 model with the sick dragon scale trigger thing on it. So this is the older one, but we're gonna put a 0.15 millimeter fine line needle set in there. So let's get after it. First thing we gotta do obviously is open up all these packages. We're gonna get those open, get some tools out, and start building. All right, so let's go through these packages real quick, just so you would know what you would need to build an airbrush. All right, first package, body. It's obviously the main component of the airbrush. It's like the motherboard of a PC. Cut that right open. Let's get after it. So I'm just gonna kind of briefly look in all the orifices here, make sure there's no leftover oils, machining, bits and whatnot, and it all looks spotless. This one here was made on September 23rd, 2024. So this was made not too long ago. And there you have it. So obviously they made some bodies to sell as parts, even though the airbrush itself sold out. Next part is the end piece, and I hadn't actually intended on buying this piece because I'm actually going to do a mod to this airbrush later in a different video, but when I ordered this, they sent me this, and and all of that shuffle, they're like, just go ahead and keep the end piece and we'll send you the body. So there you go. I'm going to cut that open. And that's beautiful. The one thing that I really like about these Kyiv Infinities is that they're all aluminum. This thing is light. like super light. Let me get the scale out. 13 grams. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. So when you're airbrushing for a long time, fatigue and all that starts to take effect, and weight is going to be one of the biggest factors of that. The other big factor is trigger comfort, for me at least. So we're going to address that with this build because we're going to put in some 2024 parts on this build, making it a little bit better. Alright, so we got the body and the end piece. We're going to need the middle piece. Normally these Kyiv brushes have a matte chrome kind of like accessory motif going on with the colors and all that. But I wanted to make something a little bit different because who doesn't like black and gold, right? Oops. Sorry, this cardboard wants to slide everywhere. So it's going to be a special Enslow Kyiv edition. So we have the waist piece for the infinity. Okay, then we're going to get to the trigger assembly setup. A few parts for that. So this one here we have the needle spring or tension adjuster for the needle spring. That's going to go right into the back of the middle piece here. Might as well just open that up. So one thing that's interesting about these Kyiv Infinities is that they did not expose the needle assembly, spring, trigger, whatever you want to call all of that stuff, right? Sometimes you have these cutouts where you can see all of that stuff and actually have access to these controls back here. You can adjust the trigger tension, you can adjust, or sorry, loosen the needle with a needle chucking nut. And they made these Kyiv airbrushes with all these gold inner components, but you can't really see them. So that's something we're going to address in my mod that we're going to do in a future video. Just FYI, that's why I got these gold pieces. They were more expensive than the regular nickel or chrome plated ones. So here we have the needle guide. I don't know what you call that. What do they label this as? Yeah, needle guide. Okay, so we got this needle guide, but we're also going to pop in some mods on this needle guide. If you guys watch Dread FX, he has a little mod to help take out some of the dead zone and the trigger. You know, dead zones where you pull back and nothing happens for a while. It sucks on video games, controllers, you know, whatever. So we're going to address that hopefully a little bit with his mod onto that. Okay, and then here's the first 2024 part, the needle chucking nut, which goes onto the needle guide to clamp the needle in. Okay, so this needle chucking nut is the newer one compared to an old one, which just kind of looked like a regular gnarled nut thing. This one has like a self-centering rear end here, so when you slide the needle in from the back, it reduces the chance that getting at a weird angle and then getting the tip stuck in the split in the needle guide, right? So that split is how the chuck works. Sometimes you get the needle tip in there and you're going to bend your needle. So this needle chucking nut really kind of helps with that. So I'm going to completely eliminate it. You do still have to be mindful, but should take care of it. Okay, and then the last thing for the trigger assembly is going to be obviously the trigger. And we got the new Ultra 2024 trigger. Full trigger assembly including spring. So I've tried out these Ultra triggers and I really like them. They're super comfortable. I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I prefer them over that. The new Infinity 2024 trigger, which I call the Dragon Scale. I don't know why, but it just is that or pineapple, whatever. So that's all the you just FYI, you can pop these trigger pieces apart. They're just kind of held by tension. No biggie. There you go. Okay, so some of the last pieces we're going to need here are going to be seals. We're going to need a paint cup and then our air valve system. Okay, so we have a micro cup. Because we're going to be going with the 0.15 millimeter needle, I figured the micro cup is the best option there. Also, this airbrush, one of the biggest things about it is how light it is. So paint cups are actually pretty heavy, I learned. We're going to put the micro on there and that's going to keep the weight down. So then last thing I have here is a seal kit. I think most of the seals should be within the airbrush already. It said that the seals were installed. I'm going to double check some of those though, because I found some funky things with some of these harder and Steenbeck airbrushes before. But I think we got everything. So we have the air valve body and then the innards here. So we're going to have to build that one. You can usually buy this as one component pre-built, but those were sold out. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to start with for this build is this air valve. And we're going to put, we'll unbox it, but we're going to check some of the other things in the body real quick. Gotta be real careful with these air valve assembly parts because they are super small, especially the spring. My stupid robes, great dragging on the cardboard. All right. Spring seals, all that fun stuff. There we go. All unboxed. Oh, minus the paint cup. Let's get that. Okay, so with these harder and Steenbeck brushes, you don't need a lot of tools to build them, even when they're completely taken apart like this. So I basically just have this screwdriver. I have the middle ring tool. Oh, here it is. You know, that's to tighten this middle ring down to the body. That's pretty much it. Sometimes you might need soft jaws, but I don't think we're gonna need those. All right, so here we go. Air spring assembly body. Air valve assembly body. We're gonna put this first O-ring on it. It slips over this top threaded area. And you can tell it's the top because it narrows down to where it goes into the airbrush. Okay, so we get that black O-ring on there. That's gonna make a seal for the air. And then we gotta get the air piston into there. Or I guess the valve piston. So we're gonna slide this tiny, teeny little black O-ring. There's a little step here. So we're gonna pop that over the step. Just like that. Then we're ready to slide that into the valve body. So I'm just gonna slide that down into there. You can see it poking out the top. Oh, all right. Let's see if we can pop it on the bottom of the piston. Okay, there we go. That's how you do it. I've never really watched anybody build one of these before. I've just kind of do what I do, figure it out. That's better. Okay, that spring's now centered inside there. Now when I tighten this down, it should stay centered. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, test it. Oh yeah, nice and smooth. We want it to be smooth, not gritty or anything. You know, that's when you push the trigger down. We want that action to be smooth. Okay, so I'm gonna put just a teensy little bit of lube right up here. We don't want to add too much because if you add too much, that lube's gonna get down into the air chamber, which will eventually make its way up to the head and, you know, mix with your paint and all that fun stuff. We don't want that. Okay, so we put a little white seal that came with the kit over that brass piston, and we push it down, seat it inside of the air valve body, just like that. That's your completed air valve assembly. I'm gonna get a kitchen roll real quick. I want to get lube on everything. All right, so we're ready to put that into the body, but I do want to check the needle packing screw real quick. I have gotten two Harder and Steenbeck airbrushes where they didn't have the right needle packing seal. So they stacked three like other seals to make a makeshift seal, and paint was getting back into the body of the airbrush. So we're gonna avoid it, see if we can triple check that. Okay, yeah, see, I don't know if I have an extra seal on me right now for that because I used it on the other one. But here's what I'm talking about. Oh. This PTF seal inside of the needle packing set is PTFE. That one might be one in there. Let's see if that one works. But you know, it's solvent resistant, so it's there to prevent paint getting into the back of the airbrush. Yes, I don't think that's the right size. Yeah, it needs to be larger than that. So yeah, it looks like they took 3 of these seals maybe and just stacked them. So it's something I don't have on hand, but we will be fixing that. I do have one on order. These seals are really hard to find, but I do have some on order, so I should get those in the future. So we'll put that back in real quick. This is the needle packing screw. It's a little set screw where these seals slide in. And basically what happens is when you tighten down this screw, it smashes those seals and they kind of bulge. That bulging is what seals around the needle. And you can adjust how tight that is by loosening it or tightening it. So if you put a needle in and it feels super tight, or you like pull it back and it doesn't go forward, it's probably because this is way too tight or there's something wrong with your needle packing screw. So we're going to put that back in. Sorry for that interruption. My camera overheated. So anyway, I was talking about that expensive Iwata needle set tool. Here it is, and it actually fits on this thing. So yay, I actually get to use it. This was actually a gift, so that's why I have it. I would not spend the money on this thing. So just quickly, I guess I should show you. It's a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver with a rod going through the middle of it. That allows you to put the screw on there, keep it centered, keep it all together. You can see I was fiddling with it before. You can do it with a regular screwdriver. I've done it a lot with a regular screwdriver. So that might be something we need to go back and adjust once we get the needle and all that in there. But we'll set that aside for now. Okay? So we should be able to go ahead and put the air valve into the body. You just have to finger tighten that. And you see I do have a quick disconnect. Should have a nice harder than Steenbeck one. These are the best quick disconnects to get. They have a flat rubber washer in them instead of a donut shaped one. And these ones just give the best seal. And there you go. Coming together. Alright, next thing's easy. We just gotta put together the trigger spring assembly. A couple ways to do that, but I'm gonna do it by assembling this piece by piece and kind of put it all together and then put it in the body if you want. And take this little middle piece tool here and put it in one of the holes, tighten it down. You don't want to over tighten it. This is aluminum. You know, it's not like titanium or anything, so. Okay, we gotta put the needle guide in there. We're gonna do the Dread FX fix for the needle tension and getting it to be a bit more responsive. And that's just simply the 2 PTFE seals that are normally on the nozzle here. I did have to enlarge the holes to get them to fit over the needle guide. And I used my little drill tool for drilling pinholes and whatnot in the models. Just pop those 2 onto there. That should help. I don't know how that's going to interact with the 2024 trigger because I think this fix is more for the older trigger style. So we're going to test it out. We might just end up having to pop those off, but that's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to slide this in here and see what's going on. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to pop that back out real quick. Seems like getting some weird play there. Or interference. Yeah, that's pretty rough. I don't know if I like that. Like, holy smokes, guys! These surfaces on this gold needle guide are just rough. You can see the machining marks on them. Well, we'll have to see how that works out. First thing we're gonna do though is put a little bit of lube on it. That will help a little bit. Might have to hit this with some sandpaper, which is gonna remove the gold finish, which is kind of frustrating because I paid a little extra for that. Okay, that's a little better, but definitely rough. Feels gritty. I don't like that. Okay, you get the spring, you can put that in. Tension adjuster nut. I'm gonna screw that down pretty far, and then we have the needle chucking nut. Okay, so that's how you assemble it outside of the body. And then you can just slide that in. Screw it in. Tighten it down. Okay, so that's pretty good assembled. Sometimes I like to add a little bit of lube onto the needle guide back here. Okay, that's not too bad. You can pop the trigger in. Oh yeah, that feels pretty good. I think that might work with the new trigger. Crossing my fingers. All right, so from here you just basically put in your nozzle front end. Okay, tighten that down finger tight. Don't over tighten these. I don't know why, but some of them I get from the factory. Seems like they use the torque wrench to tighten down the front, and it pancakes the seals, and you end up getting air coming through. So just be gentle. You don't need to over tighten things like that. Micro cup, look at that. Ooh, yeah, baby. I just need, we need to be able to see these gold components. They're so pretty. But when you put this on, what's going on here? These old ones not accepting it. Oh, might not fit that new nut. That's a problem. So that's something we will have to address as well in our mod. That's really pretty. I like this purple anodized thing, but we're gonna probably replace that with a different one that's matching the theme that I got going on here more. But okay, so it seems like this back piece is not gonna work with the new nut. Oh, it does. Oh, it's this that doesn't work with the new nut. Interesting. Well, this thing I wanted to put on this brush because the purple, ooh, yeah. And I put this matte chrome piece on there, and I really just like the theme on that one. So we're gonna figure that out. We'll probably have to trim a piece in there to get these end pieces to fit, but honestly, you guys, I really don't ever use these color control knobs. You can see I just take them off. It's extra weight, and I want these things to be as light as possible, right? So yeah, same thing here. This brass tube here would need to be trimmed back to work with the new needle chucking nut. All right, well, let's just sideline that for now. We'll worry about that later. I might not even need it because the mod I've been talking about won't have an end piece. We're gonna do something completely different. Only one other airbrush company is doing it right now. So we're gonna do that instead. But here we are. Look at that, guys. My own Infinity Kyiv Dark. Tools carry stories. And what better story than creation itself? A tool built to your own standards will always outclass one pulled off of a shelf. If you're chasing mastery, innovation, and a little magic along the way, subscribe and join the circle. There's plenty more airbrush hijinks and deeply overthought tool tests on the horizon. Whether you know me as Zinslow Greymane, the Wily Wizard, or Night Owl Forge, you can always count on me to find solutions to otherwise impossible problems. Until next time, keep building, keep modding, and stay inspired.